What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Skylar and Pedro here. Check it out. Another deck tech we got. Link's going to be in the description if you guys want to see all the cards listed in this deck. Today we got Myrkul, Lord of Bones. As long as your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, Myrkul, Lord of Bones, has indestructible. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that card, except as an enchantment, and loses all other card types. So, that's going to be our deck tech for today. Skylar's not here with us, but we got these 6 treasure tokens. He'll be back in the next video, I'm pretty sure. I'm doing this one without him. But we're going to get right into it. This is I pretty say powerful deck, but I do say when I do pull it out, everybody does try and come after me, so we're going to get right into this. Starting off with our ways to sacrifice our creatures. We got Carrion Feeder for 1 black. Can't block. Sacrifice a creature. Put a +1/+1 counter on him. Basically what he does is just sacrifice other creatures. When Myrkul's out, they can turn into enchantments instantly. Same thing with Visceria Seer. Sacrifice a creature. Scry 1. Woe Strider. 2 colorless and a black. Another sacrifice outlet. Sacrifice another creature. Scry 1. Comes with a goat token. Now we're going to get into our mana rocks. Mana rocks help us ramp. The reason we are playing creature-based mana rocks is because we can sacrifice them, turn them to enchantments, and just get it going. Going to start off with Finhor Elves. Tap and add for a green. Avacyn's Pilgrim. 1 green. Tap and add for a white. Elves of Deep Shadow, black, and add for a black, lose 1 life. Best card of all, Birds of Paradise, add 1 mana of any color that we need. Llanowar Elves, add a green, add a green. Sakura Tribe Elder, typical green ramp card right here, but he does sacrifice himself freely on his own. So when he does sacrifice himself, he will become an enchantment because of Myrkul. So, get to sacrifice him again, get 2 lands. Sanction Weaver, one of the most powerful mana rocks we have in this deck because add X of any mana color where X is the number of enchantments you control. If they allow us to build up our enchantments, and we'll have maybe 7, 8, sometimes even 10 on the field, then that'll tap for 10 for herself. So, she does get out of hand. And this guy right here is not really a mana dwarf, but he does look for lands. But whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a land card from among them and put that card into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library. Nessian Wanderer, colorless and a green. Not too bad, lets us filter through our deck. Weaver of Harmony, colorless and a green. Other enchantment creatures you control get +1/+1. We don't really care about that. It's that green one. Copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an enchantment source. You may choose new targets for the copy. So literally all our enchantments are going to be able to be copied. Kind of crazy. But Destiny Spinner. We do run a lot of enchantment creatures in here. Creatures and enchantment spells you control can't be countered. Very important. Helps us just to be able to get our stuff out. And for 3 colorless and a green, target land you control becomes an XX elemental with trample and haste until end of turn, where X is number of enchantments you control. So this ability can end up winning us the game if it comes to it. Trample over somebody with all the enchantments we have. Now these are technically our win cons when we're sacrificing all these things. We're going to be dealing damage to our opponents. Cruel Celebrant, 1 white and a black. Whenever she or another creature your planeswalker you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So we're going to be killing a lot of our own stuff. Everybody's going to be losing life as we do it. Campbell, Console of Allocation. I threw him in here just because when he turns into a creature or an enchantment, whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So why not hurt people for playing Magic? That's just the type of guy I am. So you want to play, you gonna play. Zolport Cutthroat, same thing. Whenever another creature himself dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Same thing with Blood Otters. Came from the The one set. I forget the set's name, but whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Nice little artwork there. Now, Fiend Artisan, one of my favorite cards in this deck, but it gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. Not really worried about that, but for a green and a black, you can sacrifice another creature, search your library for a creature card of a granite mana cost X or less, put it onto the battlefield. So not only does he bring out another creature for us to sacrifice, he searches for another creature as he sacrifices our own creature. So with Myrkul out, that creature we sacrifice turns to an enchantment. New creature we have can possibly turn to an enchantment, but it allows us to filter through our deck. Underworld Coinsmith, whenever Underworld Coinsmith or another enchantment creature or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. For a white and a black, pay 1 life. Each opponent loses 1 life. So, allows us to basically ping people for stuff by paying 1 life. Each opponent loses 1 life, but we also gain 1 life whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, and we're going to have a lot of enchantments entering the battlefield. This guy right here, Grim Guardian. Whenever Grim Guardian or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. Walking Ballista. Literally can win us the game. We have a way to go infinite mana, which is this one right here, Devoted Druid. So, reason I put these two so close together, Walking Ballista enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. We can make it as strong as we want. If this is out for 4 colorless, put a +1/+1 counter on them. So, unlimited, we can put unlimited as we want, and then we can remove those counters to deal 1 damage to any target. So, literally this card and this card will win us the game. That is our win con. We have a couple other ones that are not really win cons, but they help us win. And this is the kind of the package right here. These 3. This one, infinite mana. This one discards everybody's card. Cinder Haze Wretch, 4 colorless and a black. Target player discards a card. Play this ability only during your turn. Put a -1/-1 counter on him. Untap him. So all these have -1/-1 counters. But with Myrkul being on the field, they will turn into enchantments. And when they turn into enchantments, -1/-1 counters do not matter because they cannot die as an enchantments. They are no longer creatures. So this allows us to discard cards. This allows us to never take damage. Prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to target creature or player this turn. So just flip. We ain't taking no damage at all. Got popped that off a couple times, annoyed a lot of people, and that's just what we do. Doomwake Giant. Whenever Doomwake Giant or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, creatures your opponent control gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Possible board wiping. Possible getting rid of nuisance creatures. And this is some spice I threw in here myself. I really hate that he is such a high mana cost, 4 colorless and white, black, green. But we have so much ways to ramp, so much ways to get land, that I also like looking at the top of my deck. But Augur of Autumn, you may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play lands from the top card of your library, and he's special because he has Coven. As long as you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you may cast creature spells from the top of your library. So if we can pull that off and be able to play off the top of our library and put out some of these decent creatures we have, then it'd be kind of crazy. Playing off the top of the library is crazy. That's why I have this next card. Courser of Crufix. Play with the top card of your library revealed. Everybody does get to see what we are drawing, but you may play with the top card of your library. If it's a land, allows us to play the land, filter through, get our creatures out. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Another way to gain life, just in case we get hit early on. This is a Secret Lair Dryad of, what's his name, Lycian Grove. But he allows us to play additional lands on each of our turns. Lands you control are every basic land type in our addition to the other types. So each of these can possibly turn into an enchantment, even though they're already enchantment trigger or creatures. They will trigger, or the two are enchantment creatures. The Dryad is not, but they will trigger our constellation. Now this one right here, every enchantment that we turn into from Myrkul will turn into a token basically, because it becomes a token of the creature. And we add green for tokens have added green, so basically we can mana ramp even more. Now this is just in case people are trying to attack us, slow them down. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each attacking creature they control that's attacking you. Good old Windborn Muse. Another constellation, a Dalion of Blossoms, 2 colorless and a green enchantment creature. Triggers on triggers on triggers. You already know how Pedro plays. Whenever Edion of Blossoms or another enchantment enters the battlefield, you draw a card. So this right here coming up is going to be our draw card package. Let's go ahead and grab a couple more cards. Draw a card. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, Midnight Reaper deals 1 damage to you and you draw a card. Of course, we draw on cards. Now this guy's really like him in this deck. Shadow Hurt, Dark Justier. Colorless and a black, sacrifice another creature, draw X cards where X is that creature's power. So not only is he a sacrifice outlet to turn our creatures into enchantments because of Myrkul, he will allow us to draw cards. Grim Heraspix, that's how you say your name, you human wizard. 2 colorless and a black. It can morph for black. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you draw a card. So we're going to be killing our own stuff, possibly doing a lot of sacrificing, so it allows us to draw. That's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to play lands, draw, get to our creatures, get to our win con, and just win as fast as possible. And he is a high mana cost creature, so you have to be careful playing him. But if you have 20 or less life, he is indestructible, but he still can be exiled, so watch out for those Path of the Exiles. Cetizen Champion, real nice card. Came from one of my favorite sets, Theros Beyond Death. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Cetizen Champion and draw a card. So not only does she get beefy, she also draws as a card. So she replaces what she ate off the plate. If that even makes sense. So one of my favorite cards from Brothers of War, Lauren of the Third Path. When she enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. You and targeted opponent each draw a card. So it does let your opponent draw a card, yes, but when it enters, you could destroy target artifact or enchantment. And our beloved Myrkul, little god sitting over here, he allows it to turn into an enchantment, kill something again, and help out whoever we want with the card draw. Somebody's having a bad time getting land, you can become friends with them and start helping them draw some cards. Beast Whisperer, whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. You know we're going to be casting a lot of creatures because there is a heavy creature base count in this deck. Like I said in the description, you'll find a tech deck and you'll be able to see every single card I'm showing you guys right now. Nightmare Shepherd, 2 colorless black, flying whenever another non-token creature enters, or whenever another non-creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1 and it's a nightmare in addition to its other types. So if Myrkul is not on the board, this just allows us to get our creatures back and benefit off whatever they are doing. Now this right here, this is a baddie in this deck, what I call Gissa, Glorious Resurrector. If a creature an opponents would control would die, exile it instead. At the beginning of your upkeep, put all creature cards exiled with Gissa, Glorious Resurrector onto the battlefield under your control. They gain Decay. So that is crazy. We get to steal people's stuff. It's just crazy. It's just psycho. Wandering Archaic. Whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, they may pay 2. If they don't, you may copy the spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. We aren't even going to look at the backside because we just stand on the front side. That is just nasty. And if we can find a way to sacrifice this and make it become an enchantment, That'd be crazy, because not a lot of people play enchantment removal. Maybe they're going to in the future, but who knows? Right now, a lot of my enchantments stay on the field because everybody's worried about artifacts, creatures, stuff like that. But this is going to be our token producers in the deck. Avenger of Zendikar from the dual deck. Nice little foil right here. But basically, whenever he enters the battlefield, put a 0/1 green plant creature token for each land you control. Not basic land, for each land. We run a lot of lands in this. Well, not a lot of lands, but we run lands in this deck. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on each plant you control. So, allows us to pump stuff up, get some tokens out. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Now this, definitely my favorite card in the deck. Eledros Witherbloom. I had to order this card. Skylar had it. He traded it to somebody else because he needed a card for his dragon deck. Glad he got his card, but man, this dragon's noise. Flying, at the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token. When this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Now, here's where it gets crazy. Pay 10 life, untap all lands you control, activate only once each turn. You gotta remember, our commander is indestructible on the 20. We have a lot of life gain, so if we can balance out sacrificing our own life and gaining life without getting to that point where we're on brink of death from this, then we should be all right. Should be able to make our commander indestructible, continue to gain life when we want to, and do stuff like that. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a 2/2 white cat creature token onto the battlefield. If that enchantment is an aura, you may attach it to the token. So, most likely it's not going to be an aura, but we are going to get a 2/2 cat. I'm going to give me those tokens soon. Get all the tokens for this deck once I in the future, but as of now we don't have it. We just use dice. You know, go to the card shop, usually they have tokens there for us. Flying, lifelink. Pegasus creatures you control have lifelink. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 white Pegasus creature token with flying. So another enchantment thing. Now this right here, this card is just to hold out just until we are able to do what we want. You can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. So, if we're not looking at the best, and then we can pull this out, make it last long enough for us to win the game and not lose the game, then we'll be all right. Shieldred, the Whispering one, at the beginning of your upkeep, also has Swamp Walk. But at the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Allows us to, it is a 7-drop. I only play 4 7-drops just because it's the same cost as Myrkul, but he basically, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. If this card is out and then we turn it into an enchantment, it's basically game over, because if they don't get rid of it, they're just going to be sacrificing a creature each of their upkeep. This monkey, so much fun to play, but it's an ape snake, thieving Amalgam, Amalgam, don't even know how to say his name. 5 colorless, 2 black. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may manifest the top card of that player's library. Meaning we gonna take it, we gonna snatch it, and then whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, the owner loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So when you manifest something, basically you put it onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature, turn it face up anytime for as many costs if it's a creature card. So if we can snag a nice little creature card from our opponents, that'd be sick. Now, protection. Avacyn Angel of Hope, real nasty card. Flying, Vigilance, Indestructible. Other permanents you control have Indestructible. Do I even have to say less? Because we're going to be sacrificing our own stuff. We don't want our opponents to be killing our stuff. We want to kill our own stuff. Now, this is my spicy in here. Spiciness. Got 2 spicinesses. But 2 planeswalkers I run in here. Kaya, Geist Hunter. Colorless and a white-black for +1. Creatures you control gain Death Touch until end of turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature token you control. Or -2 until end of turn if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control. Twice that many tokens are created instead. So if we -2 and then sacrifice our whole board, we're going to get twice as many tokens as we did instead of just the 1 copy. So it's going to be 2, Avacyn, Angel of Hopes, blah, 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 so on and so forth. They become enchantments. You know what I'm talking about? It just gets crazy if we are popping that off right there. Now this right here, Vivian on the hunt for colorless and 2 green. She allows us to +2. You may sacrifice a creature. If you do, search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's mana value. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So we sacrifice, look for another creature to possibly sacrifice, and it's just nasty. Or we can mill 5 cards and then put any number of creature cards mill this way into your hand. So either way, we're going to be getting stuff into our hand. Most likely we're going to +2, sacrifice a creature. That's just sick. Real nice Planeswalker. Nukapana set. Nukapana. Real nice though. Good old Soul Ring for some ramp. Arcane Signet for some ramp. The only 2 artifact ramp cards I play. Swiftfoot Boots. I do not play the other boots, whatever it's called, Lightning Greaves or whatever they are, because it I don't know, I just don't think I have it in this deck. You could try and throw it in here if you want. It was kind of hard to squeeze cards in this deck. I'm probably going to adjust it a little bit more depending on how it plays and stuff, but as of now it's working fine for me. But it gives it hexproof and haste. Beautiful card. Thank you, my brother-in-law Shane, traded me this beautiful full art or extended art. I don't know what you call it. I just call it beautiful. Worldly Tutor for a green. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, shuffle, and then shuffle and put that card on top. So it allows us to look for anything we want. Our win cons, walking ballista. If we find a walking ballista with that and we have our board set up, boy, it's crazy. Just crazy. Saw in half. Allows us to destroy our own creature. It creates 2 tokens that are copies of that creature, plus the token that comes from Myrkul. That's crazy. 3 tokens in 1 card. Path to Exile. Get rid of some stuff we don't want. Sometimes we just gotta get rid of some things we don't need that is in our way. Some things are a nuisance. This is a way to permanent you control, gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Heroic Intervention, gotta protect our stuff. Swords to Plowshare, another exile target creature. And this is my choice of a board wipe. Choose a number between 0 and 13. Each player sacrifices that many creatures. The reason I like the word sacrifice is because some people play indestructible or hexproof or like things like that. Mostly indestructible, but this allows them to sacrifice it instead of destroying it. So if it's something that's in my way, it allows us to destroy it, and it allows us to choose how many creatures we want to die, so they can turn into enchantments and so on and so forth. This is Bala Get Recovery. If you play a green deck, I suggest you throwing this in one of your land slots, not regular slots. Why? Because it's 2 colorless and a green, and then if we take it out of here, on the back it comes into play tap, but it adds for a green. I like these cards like this because it fills my land spot with a land and also a card, because sometimes you don't need that extra land in your deck. Now this is the reason why we have these beautiful tokens right here. Let me show you my favorite one. That one right there. Nice. But Smother and Tith, this hits the board automatically. People want to get rid of it. People are worried about it. You draw a card, that player pays 2. If they allow us to go through our deck at a fast pace, or whenever an opponent draws a card that player may pay 2, you get a treasure token. So this is another way to ramp. But with the way we can ramp and play, if we can get Myrkul out as quick as possible, it'll just be nasty. Just be nasty. So, Sphere of Safety. Secret Lair. Creatures can't attack you or a planeswalker you control unless their controller pays X for each of those creatures, where X is the number of enchantments you control. Just like the Windborn Muse, this protects us from being attacked. Sterling Grove. Green-white. Other enchantments you control have Shroud. There is another one that does it for 2 colorless and a green-white, 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 I think, and it protects your enchantments. But we're okay with just that one for right now. Now this story of this card is the reason why I lost that box topper. If you guys are paying attention to our other videos, Went to the card shop. They gave me a box topper when I walked in. They were like, here, you want this box topper? I said, yeah, I want it. I like it. And bought one pack, pulled this out of it, forgot the box topper because I was so excited. Sylvan Library, colorless and in green. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand. Draw on this turn for each of those cards. Pay 4 life or put that card on top of your library. The reason I really like that card in this deck is because we can pay 4 life until we get down to 20, so Myrkul's indestructible. Now, the main goal is not to get Myrkul to be indestructible all the time, because we're just trying to play the game of Magic, and if you focus too much on your commander like that, then it's going to be not a good game. And our land base, I'm going to show you guys the land base. Usually I don't pay attention to the land base, but because this is 3 colors, we kind of play a lot of non-basic lands. And we're going to start off with Command Tower. This is not a... The deck itself is expensive, but the land base needs to be worked on. This is just cards I had, cards I've been collecting, having my stash. So if you have better lands, you have a better land base, feel free to change it up and make it as perfect as you want, as strong as you want. Throw some Mox Opals in there, whatever you want to do. I don't know. But Silencia Sanctuary enters the battlefield tap. Return a land you control, adds for a green and a white. Tainted Field, colorless, add a white or a black, only if you control a swamp. Brush land, add a colorless, green or white, deals 1 damage to you. Exotic Orchard, you're playing with 3 opponents. Most likely one of them are either going to have white, black, or green. Hopefully. Fetid Heath, add a colorless for a white and a black. You can add 2 white or a white, black, or a black, black. Now, Arctic Tree Line came from the Kad Hamset. Forest Plains, enters the battlefield tapped. Now, if you do play fetch lands, which I don't have any, if I did have some, most likely I would throw it in here, but I make too many decks to be trying to buy too many lands for all these decks. So I just focus on the deck and do what I can with the mana base. If I wanted to be super duper powerful in Thanos, then I would just go ahead and try and fix the land base. Enters the battlefield tap unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. Add a white or a black. Enters the battlefield tap. Choose a color. Add 1 mana of the chosen color. Most likely a land that we don't have yet. Add a white and a black. You gain 1 life. I know people don't like these lands, but it's foil and I threw it in there because I can, because it's my deck. Land of Warrior Waste. Add a colorless. Add a black and a green. Land of Warrior Waste deals 1 damage to you. And that's another thing, guys. You play the deck you want to play. Don't let anybody else tell you how to put cards in your deck. You are the one playing it. You are the one that owns it. You make it yours. You don't have to follow anybody's deck tech. You don't have to follow mine. You can use it as a guide to see what you want to do. But if you want to copy it card to card, feel free to copy it card to card. The only thing I do suggest is upgrading your land base. If you are going to do anything, this deck does. I have no problem with the land base at all. That is not the problem. I'm just saying if you're trying to play high powerful Magic without untapped lands, you need to upgrade it. Sungrass Pirate, add a colorless and a green white. Caves of Color, add 1 colorless, add white black, deals 1 damage to you. Temple of Milady, scry 1, add green and a black, comes into play tapped. That's what I mean. Tap lands are killer in Magic, but we gotta fix our land base, so this is how we doing it on a budget. Swamp Forest enters the battlefield tap. Necro Blossom Snarl enters the battlefield. You may reveal a swamp or a forest card from your hand. If you don't, enters the battlefield tap. Thriving Moor enters the battlefield tap, but choose a color other than black. Choose white or green. Sunlit Marsh, add white or black, enters the battlefield tap. Isolated Chapel enters the battlefield tapped unless you control plains or a swamp. White black. Manor Gate, add a green, choose a color other than green, so you can choose black or white. Same thing. Thriving Heath, choose a color other than white, green or black. Blossoming Sands enters the battlefield type. You gain 1 life, add green or a white. Godless Shrine. Now, I had this card and one of my other 60 card decks. I don't really play 60 card decks anymore, so I took it out, threw it in here. I do own a couple shock lands, no fetch lands, no real expensive lands. This is probably, shock lands are probably the most expensive lands I have, other than maybe something else that I don't even know of. But for the most part, this is going to be my most expensive lands in here. All the rest are pretty budget. The deck itself, whoops, sorry about that, guys. The deck itself is around $400 and something just because of the creatures and enchantments and all that stuff. Now that, I am not going to lie, it has money into it. But most of the cards I already had, pulled out of packs and been collecting for years. This enters the battlefield. Return a land to your hand. That taps for a black and a green. Now, pull this out of a pack. Beside you who endures. Add a green. For a colorless and a green, you can discard it. Discard Beside you who endures. Destroy target artifact or enchantment or non-basic land and the component controls. That player may search a library for a land card with a basic land type. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So, for 1 green, if Myrkul's out, or any other legendary creature we control, it'd just be a green, but allows us to get rid of some stuff we don't need. I also have the Takanamu Abandoned Mire, thanks to my brother-in-law. Now, this card is going to come out once I build my ninja deck, but as of now, it found a home in here. Add black, 3 colorless and a green, discard Takazuma Abandoned Mire, mill 3 cards, then return a creature card or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. Not a bad card. Now these are our search lands: Terraformic Expanse, a foil Evolving Wilds, Gross and Verge enters the battlefield tap, adds a colorless, or you could tap 2, sacrifice it, search the library for a forest card or plains card and put them onto the battlefield. So if you don't run fetch lands and you're looking for budget fetch lands, these come into play. Tap 2 colorless, can sacrifice it, look for whatever you need. Fabled Patches, I said patches, ha! Fabled Passage, sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land card type, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. Then if you control 4 or more lands, untap that land. Now we're going to get into our basic land. We only run 3 swamp, 1 plains, and 2 forests. The reason we only run that many is because, like I said, this is a 3-color deck. So we are most likely trying to get these colors that have 2 colors in them so we can actually play our card game. That's why we have a lot of ways to play 2 lands a turn, because I am playing tap lands. So in order to balance that out, I would rather play 2 tap lands in 1 turn than 1 tap land. So at least it kind of, you know, the next turn you kind of just get ahead just a little bit. But like I said, this is the deck. If you guys enjoy it, let me know in the comments. Comment which deck tech you guys want, what decks you guys want us to build, what decks you guys have. Tor, like I said, shout out to Tor, shout out to Skylar. They ain't here right now, but Tor is going to be on the channel soon. We're going to have an Urza deck profile for you, and I'm telling you, that deck is nasty. You think this deck is crazy? Just wait. Thank you guys for watching. Till next time, peace out.